out. Honestly, you could have done the dressing the night before if you wanted to, and just let it sit in the fridge. Gorgonzola is a pretty soft cheese, which is nice, but we're not going to crush it up and we're not going to blend it. Like a normal blue cheese dressing would be very creamy, and we're making a vinaigrette. So we're going to have chunks of cheese in there because we want that flavor, and we want that flavor to be in the dressing, but we don't want it to be creamy. We want it to still be kind of a vinaigrette, nice and bright and sharp, as opposed to a creamy dressing, which I might use a base of like cottage cheese or mayonnaise. In this case, I'm using a classic vinaigrette base of vinegar and oil. So because of that, we want the oil, the liquid to infuse with the cheese. And so we're going to do that first so we can get that all started. So let's get that started right now. Classically, with any sort of dressing, you're going to start with all of your acidic ingredients first, most of your flavoring, and then you're going to whisk in the oil. And that hopefully helps it to emulsify, get stuck in there. And one of the best ways to help things emulsify is mustard. Mustard is already an emulsification, and so it sort of acts as like a I like to describe it as like a teacher. It teaches the other ingredients how to be emulsified, and in doing so, you generally get a dressing that stays together and is pretty nice. So let's go ahead and just get this going. Whisk it up. All right, so our dressing has a bunch of different ingredients in it. You can kind of change this up if you want. Make it kind of your own, but I'm gonna, as always, start with garlic. Let's go ahead and get us in a nice little spot here where you can see what I'm doing. My screen is very dark today. Oh, maybe, no, it's plugged in. Cool. All right, let's see. Perfect. Get you nice and close here. All right, so we're gonna chop up some garlic. You guys have seen me do this before, but you know, it's always fun. So you take the stem here, you want to sort of put it against the board, and then you just want to push against the stem. Ooh, my stem already broke. That's not good. And what that usually will do if your stem doesn't break like mine did, is it'll make all the sort of bulbs, or not the bulbs, the cloves pop out. It did kind of do that though. These are red garlic, which is nice. That's it's usually a little bit more spicy, which I kind of like. So we're gonna use about 2 cloves of this. That's probably good for now. I don't want this to be too garlicky. Normally, you know, you'd never hear me say something like that. But in this particular situation, we really do want the gorgonzola to be the main flavor. And garlic is just really intense. And nothing's going to run over gorgonzola, but I don't want this to be a garlic gorgonzola vinaigrette. I want this to be a gorgonzola vinaigrette. So the garlic is in there because it's delicious. You can just as easily leave it out or replace it with something else if you wanted. You know, you could use like a shallot, for instance, in the dressing if you wanted, but we're going to be frying them later, so we're not doing that. Awesome. Oh, this garlic's so sticky. I love it. So I've already forgotten one of my favorite parts of cooking, which is the mise en place. So I did do a mise en place, which is why you just saw me grab that garlic from right in front of me. But let me show you guys. Let me show you what we got going on here. Mise en place is essentially, it's what we like to call everything in its place. I got my pan right there. I got my roasting pan. I got all the bowls I'm going to need. I've got all my ingredients left to right. I usually like to work. So I got my dressing on the left. Then we got the shallots and the sweet potatoes and the steak as we head towards the right. Got my balsamic vinegar and butter and brown sugar over there for the glaze, as well as one of the last things we're going to be doing. Once you glaze those sweet potatoes, that pan is going to be a mess. So that's the last thing we're going to do. Also, the sweet potatoes are the most likely to get cold. And so that's another reason why we like to do it last. We don't really want hot steak on our salad, but I would like sort of a nice warm sweet potato at least down underneath it all. So let's see. We've got our garlic. We've got some Dijon, white vinegar. So let's get that together right now. Awesome. So again, I've got a little bit extra garlic, but just a little bit extra. I think these cloves are just really small, so that's kind of why I'm going for that. So we're just going to sort of slice these first. Just run your knife along them, put them on their flat edge so they're easy to sort of hold in place. And then now that they're nice and sliced, we can just sort of get them together in a pile and just run our knife over them. If you have a garlic press, you can definitely use that instead. Works really good for dressings, especially because it sort of just completely and utterly pulverizes the garlic, which is nice. Another thing you can do is you can get them in a pile like this and you can just sort of squish them. And what that does is it makes them almost like a nice little layer, flat layer, and then you can run your knife over the flat layer Also releases a lot of the nice flavors from the garlic. So that's a fun little technique. Garlic can be kind of a pain sometimes to pin down, especially if you're not doing a massive amount. It's just very slippery. And the pieces are, it's hard, but it's also got quite a lot of liquid in it. So it tends to sort of slip around, but this is looking pretty nice. Nice small dice. So we're just gonna go ahead and toss that in our bowl. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love garlic. Awesome. We're gonna hit that with a little bit of our Dijon. We just want enough Dijon to basically hold it all together. Like I said, it's sort of like a teacher. So we don't really want it as a flavor. There are a lot of really fabulous mustard-based dressings out there that I highly recommend. I've heard, we have balsamic, for instance, like a maple balsamic mustard vinaigrette is really good. You get a nice stone ground mustard with the big pieces in it, and you take that and then you basically just sort of mix out a little balsamic, basically the same ratio we have here for oils to vinegars, but instead of that 1 tablespoon, you put almost like a 1/4 cup of mustard in there, and then a 1/4 cup of, well, maybe not a 1/4 cup, maybe an 1/8 of a cup or a couple tablespoons of maple syrup in there. Just put enough as sweet as you like it, and then you use balsamic vinegar instead, and that's it. That's pretty much the whole recipe. That's really tasty, and if you whisk it good and you get it nice and emulsified, it's this really cool color too. Great. So we've got our Dijon, we've got our garlic. We're going to get some vinegar in here. I think it was 3 tablespoons. Whoops, I already went over. So it goes 3 tablespoons. Yeah, that's right. We don't want this to be too sweet, so we are going to use a little bit of sweetener though, just because it makes things taste good. All right, a little bit of white vinegar. And every good vinaigrette has to have something acidic. It doesn't have to be vinegar. Another really great dressing you can do is a lemon garlic dressing. Use a whole bulb of garlic. Use a 1/4 cup of just straight lemon juice, and then a 1/2 cup of oil, and you whisk it in there, and that's it. You can put some salt in there too, just to sort of get it rocking, make it a little bit more flavorful. But you definitely don't need that. I got some brown sugar is what I decided, but you can use pretty much any sweetener you like, or skip the sweetener altogether. It's totally up to you. Get this all mixed together. Beautiful. This anymore. We'll switch over to a whisk. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything. Ooh, still got a garlic skin in there. That's not good. All right, parsley. That's right, of course. So I'm just using a little bit of parsley. I could only find curly parsley. I've only been able to find curly parsley lately, which is kind of unfortunate, but it still tastes good. It just doesn't have quite as much oils in it. It's more of a garnish, really, or more of a salad ingredient. Like I put curly parsley in a salad. I really like eating it because it's a little bit less intense than normal parsley as far as like that sort of grassy flavor. But it works just fine in a recipe if you need to cook with it. It just doesn't have quite as many of the same, oils that you get in a parsley that gives it that sort of classic parsley flavor. So it's just fine. It's going to work fine for us tonight. It's still going to look beautiful and green, which is what we're going for. But it's not going to have quite as much of that fresh bite that we really like from normal parsley. Maybe we'll mix them in the salad too, really get it going. So cool, just got a nice little chop on this, and I just sort of bunched it all together with my fingers before I started chopping, just to hopefully make my job a little easier. You take nice thin slices off of that, and then just like with the garlic, you just want to get it all bunched up and make a nice little hole there. So we'll get a little bit of that parsley in there. Should be good. We'll just save that for later. Maybe that goes up on top of our salad or something like that. Awesome. All right, so parsley is in there. Now we just need to whisk in our oil. So just so you guys know, this is kind of what it looks like right now. It's basically just a bunch of liquid and garlic. That smells so good though. And then, right, cool. So we're gonna whisk in a 1/2 cup of olive oil, and this will make our vinaigrette. A lot of oil. I know it seems like a lot of oil, but you're really not going to use a lot of this dressing. There's probably way more dressing here than you actually need for the portions that we're going to be making tonight. But leftover dressing goes great on your next salad. You can always just up the recipe here. This will probably feed 2 to 4 people is usually what I go for. I would say this is probably more of a 2-person dinner, but it just depends on how much you like salad. All right, let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. I don't know why this dressing just keeps messing with my brain. Looks like we're good though. All right, let me pop myself over here. Oop, there we go. Perfect. All right, let's whisk it in. So when you're whisking in oil, oil doesn't like vinegar. Oil doesn't like liquid pretty much that's not fat. So you need to sort of convince it to get in there. That's part of why we have that Dijon. Another good way to do that is to whisk. Another way to do that is just to add it very, very slowly. And so we're going to do what's called a drizzle. I'm just going to drizzle this in here. Pay attention to sort of the thickness of the line that's coming down into the dressing. It's going to tell you if you're doing enough, and then just whisk, 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 whisk. If you have a partner, now's the time to get them to work with you and hold that bowl for you, or even do the whisking while you drizzle. If you have a food processor, you could do that. Again, that would make it more of a creamy dressing. I really do like it as a chunky dressing, but totally up to you. And we're gonna whisk this a little bit harder too once everything's in there. Beautiful. As you guys can see, it's still very liquidy, but the oil is now sort of been incorporated into that liquid. It's got a nice sort of pale color, which is what you're classically going for in a vinaigrette. It's just olive oil. It basically just makes whatever vinegar you're using go a little bit lighter, a little bit more opaque. It's kind of a nice technique. And now we're just going to hit it with Gorgonzola and call it a day. I am going to probably put a little bit of pepper in here. The Gorgonzola is very, very salty, so I don't think we need any salt. But again, if you like salt, please just put it in there. I am a low salt guy, so I don't usually put salt in pretty much anything anymore. But don't let that stop you from putting it in there. Salt is delicious. There's a reason why everybody really likes it. It's good for your body in the correct proportions, obviously. And it does just taste really, 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 really good. So again, I'm putting quite a decent amount of black pepper in here just because I really like it. Get in there. Perfect. And then we're going to do a cup of Gorgonzola. So I think this is, how much did I end up getting? Did it not say the weight? Oh yeah, that's right. This is individually weighed. So on the back, I thought I got one that was pretty close to half a pound. Yeah, exactly. It's almost half a pound exactly. So a pint is a pound the world around is what they say. And so a half a pound should be about a cup. I do have a half cup measure here, so I am going to measure it, but you could probably just toss it in there if you happen to get one about the same size as me. There's some smaller pieces here at the bottom. We definitely want to get those if we can. We want it to be chunky, but those smaller pieces are going to have more surface area, which means that we are going to get better infusion of our dressing. And this is going to be really chunky, guys. I'm going to show you here in a second. It's insanely chunky. It's not a classic vinaigrette. It's going to we're going to spoon it on top of the salad, and it's going to sort of the liquid part is going to sort of drizzle over the greens, and then all the cheese chunks are just going to stay right on top, and that's totally fine. That's what we want. So I'm just going to whisk this together here, and I'm being pretty vigorous with it. I do want some of the cheese to break up, but again, I don't want a creamy dressing, but I do want some of that protein to break up and flavor to sort of infuse, and I can already tell that is going to be absolutely delicious. There we go. There's our vinaigrette done. You can put that in a bowl or not a bowl, a mason jar if you wanted to store it, and then you could shake it later. But that should just be peachy right there. Can you guys see that? Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Really tasty, really green. Let's just get our finger in there. Oh yeah, that's gonna be good. Oh, ooh, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so we'll just put that to the side for now. We're gonna come back to that later. I can taste everything. The Gorgonzola is gonna just keep getting better and better in there. It's really good. And the olive oil that I bought is actually pretty nice. It's got a good flavor to it. I wasn't sure about this stuff. It's not the most expensive stuff, but it is actually pretty good. All right, cool. So let's roast our radishes. They're probably going to take the longest, maybe like 15 minutes or so in there, or 20 minutes in there. So we'll see. It depends on how my oven's doing. So I was not able to get fresh radishes from our local farms. They do exist right now, though, so I hope that you guys were able to. But I did get some nice red radishes just from Stop and Shop. Not the worst thing in the world. I am very excited for next month to be more shopping at our farms. but I just wasn't able to get there. I went shopping on Monday, and sadly, it was the last Monday that the farm was closed. So, sorry, we got a nice red radish. This is a beautiful thing. They're really tasty. If you've never had them before, I highly suggest it. They're cool. Just a little bit of like a, it's not a spice like a pepper. It's more like a spice like a horseradish, right? Which is obviously a part of a type of a radish. It's a cool heat, and I really like them. But when you roast them, they get really sweet, almost like a turnip. And so, big fan of that. French breakfast is what I would want to use if I had the choice for this. I really like them for two reasons. One, they're beautiful, and two, they're a lot easier to prep. With these, I'm gonna have to cut the tail off, and then I'm gonna have to quarter them. So it's just one extra cut. But with a French breakfast, I would have just halved them. And then it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want some nice rough edges there, and cut off the tail. In this case, if you bought French breakfasts, hopefully you have a little bit of green, kind of like that, but maybe more. And you want to leave that on there. It's really nice. It roasts up just fine. I mean, the greens or radishes are incredibly tasty, and you can make all sorts of fun, curries and stir fries with them. So don't be afraid to eat the greens, even if you have them. They're very delicious. You could even wash them and rinse them and put them in the salad with the arugula if you wanted to. I'm not going to stop you there. Radish salad's really, really tasty. So we're just quartering these. Just cut off the little stem there, and then you go long ways. You want to cut them in half, and then just don't let them fall apart. Sort of hold them together, spin them, hold them right on the seam, and cut again, and then you'll get your quarter. Oops. Oh yeah, these are going to be so good. Roasted radishes are just such a, you know what? I'll put the parsley on these. That'll be good. It's going to look a little weird once they're roasted, but that's okay. It'll be a nice little flavor for them. That's more freshness. So when you're doing this, just make sure you keep your pinkies out of the way. Sometimes they can start to sneak in there if you're not paying attention, and either you chop them or you poke them. Poking them hasn't been dangerous to me in the past, but sometimes I get lazy, and I have definitely. It's just a scary experience when the blade of a knife touches you. It's never pleasant. I've cut myself plenty of times as a chef. I plan to never do it again. We'll hope that plan is successful. The real trick is to just take your time, don't rush, and it should be just a-okay. So yeah, French breakfast is probably one of my favorite radishes. I really like watermelon radishes too. Those are great. They're a really fabulous storage crop too. They tend to stick around pretty much all winter. Once you take them out of the ground, you can just put them in your fridge and they last forever. The outside sometimes gets a little bit wrinkly, but like the inside is just always so fresh. I love watermelon radishes. They're really beautiful too. They have this cool like green to pink sort of inside color that is just absolutely breathtaking. Really like them on ramen. I like anything on ramen, but radishes especially are really nice. Cool. Just got these little tails here. Throw them in your compost or give them to chickens or your cat, or I don't know, whatever you want. So there's our radishes. We're gonna put this parsley in here just because we've got it. Why not? And you know what? Let's toss a little bit of garlic in there too. We're really going off base here, but I got this garlic here, and why not? So I'm not actually gonna really chop this up that much. I'm just gonna crush it and put the whole cloves in there. That way, it's just gonna be a very subtle flavor. But it is going to be there, and also I'll have some nice garlic pieces that that we can eat or put on the salad if so inclined. Okay, cool. So there's the radishes. We're just gonna put a touch of salt, just a little bit. This is the only thing I'm gonna salt probably this whole dish, just because they're basically just basic radishes, and the salt's gonna help to draw some of the moisture out of them, which is what we want. We want that moisture to come out. We want them to evaporate in the oven, and we want them to sort of shrivel up a little bit. It's going to be really nice. Get them nice and soft. A little bit of olive oil on top there. That was probably way too much, but a little toss. And then the toss here is, again, you want to sort of throw the food away from you, and as it's coming up the far edge, you just want to pull it back, and pull it back enough so that you're back in your sort of original position, and they should just land right where they are. A little bit of inertia right there. If you have any kids that are in school learning physics, I'm sure they could help you figure this process out if they know anything about inertia. Put those right on our baking sheet. Spread them out. You want to have some nice space in between them if you can. Anytime you're roasting veggies, you really want space because they're going to release liquid, and if that liquid doesn't have anywhere to go, you're going to end up with mushy veggies. Which, if you want mushy veggies, by all means, load up your pan. It is definitely a technique. Can be a really useful way if you don't have space on your stove, for instance, to like cook squash for like a blitzed squash. But in this case, I want them to be kind of crispy. I want some nice edges, so I'm giving myself plenty of space. Do that dance because my oven is weird and hates to actually reheat itself. Perfect. All right, so we got the radishes in, we got our dressing sitting. That's awesome. We're into basically the sort of the prep stage of all the different portions here. So the main things that we are going to put on the salad are the candied nuts, which we did decide, or I decided by buying these that are done. So candied nuts, normally in this case, I'd be chopping my nuts or whatever. We've got our sweet potatoes, which we're going to glaze. Those are going to go last. And we've got our steak, which I'm going to cook right now. So I got really lucky, and I got steak for $4.74. I don't know how or why this cost only that much. I mean, it's a fairly cheap cut of meat. It's a top round or a London broil. This is not classically a steak meat, but we're gonna make it a steak meat today because I want to, and because I didn't want to spend that much money. This is gonna end up really, really thin sliced on top of our salad, and salads are roughage. You're gonna chew them and stuff. So I'm not too worried about the texture here at all. I really like this cut as far as flavor is concerned. It's almost it gives me some similar vibes to like a brisket. It just has that, it's got a sort of a stringy texture to it. So I'm okay with that. You can I don't know how familiar you guys are with meat, but you can sort of see, let me just get this a little drop here. You can see on the top, it's almost got like a corn texture to it, right? And that's like a brisket would be. I really like that. The thing about this is that it's not gonna cook great this way. It's way too thick. All the fibers in this muscle, if you see right here, hopefully you can see, they run up and down the steak. Most steaks aren't like that. Most steaks, the fibers run this way or this way. And so when you're cutting the steak, you're naturally cutting those fibers and making it more tender. With the broil like this, that's not the way it's going to happen. We're going to be slicing this like this, and it's nice. We're going to slice sort of on the bias across that grain. As again, you can sort of see it there as well. It's really nice. We're going to be slicing across that, which is going to cut the grain short. And by cutting the grain short, we're going to make it appear to be more tender than it actually is. I still think this is too thick though, so we're actually going to cut this in half once, just to make our cooking time a little bit faster, and also just to have a better sort of quote unquote steak. Still going to be pretty thick, but that's okay. I got way more meat than I called for in the recipe, just because that's how they packaged it. Hopefully you guys are able to get something either a little more fancy, or maybe you have something if you're a hunter or whatever. So I just put that on its fattest end, and I sort of worked my way down. And you can see on these fresh cuts, you can see the sort of, it's almost like a corned texture again. That is not a normal steak texture. It's just not what it is. This is a roast, but that's okay. We're going to treat it like a steak, and in doing so, we're going to make it a steak because it's just a steak. The only thing that makes it a steak is if it looks like a steak and it tastes like a steak, and this is going to look and taste like a steak. So really great way to save some money. That you could throw those on the grill like that. I guarantee you they'd be just fine. And what we're going to do later is, you can see again that texture, the strips go this way, and so when this is cooked, and I'll show you this too, we're going to cut at a nice, really strong bias. And what that's going to do is it's going to cut those vertical, not tendons, I keep trying to say tendons, those vertical fibers in half. They're not going to be attached to each other, which is going to make it be very, very tender in our mouth. So let's go ahead and get this pan nice and hot. I only have one heat, so that's going to be easy. And then we're just going to season this with a little bit of black pepper. Again, you can put salt on if you want. You can put garlic salt on. You can put pretty much anything you want on these things. Anything that you think is going to be tasty. I personally just really like black pepper. It's just just a really nice flavor for me. And just sort of pat it into the meat. Give a nice little flip. Make sure you season both sides. You got two sides of your mouth. You might as well season both sides of the food, right? Top and bottom. You can season the sides too. Like, give it a full-on, crispy outside. You could do crazy stuff too. You could put some sesame seeds on here if you wanted to. There's all sorts of fun stuff you can do to the steak. It's not going to cook for a very long time, so anything you put on the outside should be pretty safe. We really are just going to try and get a sear on both sides. We want it to be fairly rare. Cook it how you like it though. If you want it more well done, just do that. And we have an oven on, so you can always finish it in the oven too if you find that it is getting a little too intense on your stove. Get myself a nice one of these. If you guys have cast irons at home, these are one of the coolest things ever. Little sleeves for the handles. So you don't need a whole pot holder. You can just slip it right on there. And now I can just hold this no matter how hot it gets. Because most pans, you know, the whole pan doesn't get hot, but with these, it always does. So while that's heating up, let's see, we got any questions? No questions, that's cool. Hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. This is gonna be really tasty. And who knows, I might actually be done by 6 o'clock. It's amazing, it's a miracle. I forgot to set a timer for my radishes, so I'm gonna do that right now. Perfect. All right, so while that's getting hot, let's go ahead and just prep our shallots because we're gonna need them as well. So I am going to use a mandolin, which is what this is right here. If you've never seen one, this is a really good one. I like this, it's very cheap. It's called a Benringer. You can get it online. There's a bunch of different parts of it, but the main idea here is you've got a blade here. You push fruits this way. There's the blade sort of cuts them. And then there's an adjustment here which determines how thick you want them to be cut. And that's pretty much it. It's really simple. There's a guard that some of them come with. I never use it, mainly because I think it actually ends up being more dangerous, but that's just me. And we'll go over why I think it's more dangerous when I'm cutting them. So I tried to get, shallots tend to come in two different varieties. You get the torpedoes, which are like that. And then you get the sort of twofers. I tried to get all torpedoes, but I guess I ended up with a twofer. The twofers just aren't as easy to mandolin, which is why I was trying to go for the torpedoes. So what you want to do is you just want to cut off the top, and you want to leave the skin on. You don't want to cut them in half like you would if we were trying to like dice them or anything like that, because we want them to be whole. We want nice rings, almost like an onion ring, but we're doing shallot rings. So we just need to sort of peel off the outside. There's a couple different ways you can do that. You can just sort of brute force it and get yourself in there with your fingernails if you got it. Or if you don't have fingernails and you want to use a knife, what you can do, that's getting nice and hot. What you can do is you can just sort of take your knife like this and just sort of run it very gently along the outside until it cuts through. All right, this is super hot. Let's get that off the heat. Turn my fan on. And let's get ready to cook some steak. So I'm just gonna add a little oil to the pan. The blender broil doesn't have a ton of marbling, so you do want to add a little bit of more oil in there. I normally cook with venison, so I'm pretty used to cooking with fat, even when I'm cooking steak. But if you had like a nice marbled piece of beef, I wouldn't worry about this at all. And we're just gonna make sure that oil comes to temperature. And we're gonna put our steak right in there. And we're going full heat. We're basically gonna be grilling this. We're just gonna let it go to town. I'm not even gonna turn the heat off like I normally would. Give it a little tilt, make sure the oil gets up against your meat so it doesn't stick. Just let that go to town while we peel these shallots. So as you can see now, there's a little sort of, well, I didn't really do that well though, did I? There's a little line right here that I should be able to, yeah, there we go, peel the shallot from. When you work in a professional kitchen, you usually end up buying already peeled shallots, which is one of the most luxury items, I think, in maybe the entire world. It's so nice. You can do so many different things that I would never, ever do. That and peeled garlic is just like, I would never make some of the crazy, like super garlicky creations that I used to make if I had to peel every single clove. I just wouldn't do it. But you know, when somebody else does it for you, or usually a machine does it for you, it does make life a lot easier. So take that advantage if you want to. I'm not going to judge you, that's for sure. I always appreciate anything to make my life easier. So most of the torpedoes you're going to find have that sort of same double structure underneath, but that's okay because they're held together a lot better on the root end. Most of the ones that you can tell are double, they fall right apart as soon as you take the peel off. Oh yeah. So again, I think I'm going to do like 3 minutes on each side maybe. And I like crispy. I like almost burnt really. So again, that's why I'm keeping this full heat and I'm just going to town on it. But you know, if you have a different stove, a stove that is not my stove at home, I do suggest, you know, turning that heat down a little bit and really letting it sort of sear sort of a little bit slower. You'll get a nice crust on it. Oh, that's so nice. Beautiful. All right, cool. So mandolin, I'm going to show you this a couple times because we got a bunch of shallots. So the first thing you want to do is you got to set your thickness, and usually that's going to take a little bit of trial and error. So I got a mandolin here. Tilt that up a little bit. Got my mandolin here. I like to put the bottom on the pan. I have my finger on the nut because the nut does tend to slip. And then I've got my other finger on this piece because this piece flaps. And if that flaps while you're doing things, it's just super dangerous. I hold it right up against my belly so it's not going anywhere. And I feel really safe now. I could just do this all day. My fingers are up towards the top of the produce, enough so I have a good grip. They're going to naturally, as I go, slip from here all the way up to the top. So by the time I'm done, all I'm holding is the root, which I'm already going to compost. And we're just going to go for it. So we'll take a couple slices and we'll see how thick they are. I think I could go a little bit thinner. So I'm just going to tighten this nut and then we're going to go to town. Awesome. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and flip these steaks. Oh, yeah. So much pepper. So I think I just turned my stove off and I'll let them hang out on the residual heat. I think that'll cook them perfectly. All right, so yeah, so we're nice and thin right now, which is what we want. Really nice and floppy. That means that there's gonna be, again, more surface area to mass, which is going to make them crisp faster, which is exactly what we want. We want them nice and crispy. So when I'm done here, just doing one at a time, and I've got sort of my fingers are all the way up towards the top, right? And that's enough. We're not going to try and get everything out of that shallot that we possibly can, because our fingers are more important than that shallot. I guarantee it. Don't go crazy. So again, I know that my thickness is good, so I'm stopping right here. I'm just re-gripping up towards the top, doing that again. And if I wanted to get really, really in there, you can sort of palm it like this and get a couple more cuts. I don't really like to do that usually unless I'm using something like a truffle or something that I just absolutely need every single piece of because it's so incredibly expensive. And just sort of feel it and don't take your eyes off of it because that is how you end up cutting yourself. My timer just went off for the radishes. That's beautiful. If you don't have a mandolin, I'm going to show you how I would cut these normally. And that's just going to be what I would do. It's okay if they're not just as paper thin as this mandolin makes. All right, let's check our radishes. Oh yeah, those are looking good. Nice. They're getting pretty hot, starting to sizzle. The outside's getting a little bit wrinkly, which I really like. The color has gotten really, really bright too. The outside red is almost turned into this like pink, which is really cool. So I just get this little spin, put it back in, reset my oven because it's weird. Yeah, that just went down 25 degrees. It's just, I don't know. It does its thing. Give these a little poke. Those are looking good. Cool. So normally when you poke it like that, you can tell how it's done, but this is a tougher cut of meat. So it's going to feel a little bit tougher than a normal cut of meat. All right, so slicing your shallots. If you don't feel comfortable keeping them whole like this, that is totally okay. What you can do is cut them in half and slice them. You're still going to get nice crispy bits. I just like the rings. But anyway, so what you want to do is just get your fingers out of the way. You just want to take your time and just slice nice thin bits right off the front of your nail. Here, use your nail as a guide. Don't actually put the blade of the knife up against your nail. Use the top of the knife and your nail as a guide. And just take little tiny thin slices off, as thin as you possibly can. Try and push away from yourself. Tends to be really nice when you're doing thin slices. And just take your time, do your thing, and it's okay if they're thick. It's still going to get nice and crispy. It's still going to be nice and tasty. I actually have like absolutely horrible knife skills when it comes to cutting things thinly, but that's okay. I hope I make you more comfortable with my skills. See, and they slip like that. It's just like it's just not as straight as it usually is, which is totally fine. We're just going to do a couple more little slices here and call it a day. Beautiful. There's our shallots. We're just going to separate these all so they're ready to go in our oil. When we get that to that stage, get them nice and crispy. We're not doing that in the pan so much. Really just, it's going to be pretty fast and furious when they get crispy. So we want to get them all separated right now if we can. So we set the timer on the oven for those radishes. Whew, these are strong. I'm getting some teary eyes over here. And it's not just because I'm a Cancer. Whew. Oh, baby, those are gonna be tasty. All right, awesome. Let's get our steak out of this pan. I think that it is ready to start resting. So the steak looks pretty nice, if I do say so myself. You just get a knife on that and eat it right now, honestly. It's way too much steak than we need. We're probably going to use one of these halves for our salad or our 2 salads, but you know, it's nothing wrong with that. All right, cool. So we're actually using the same pan to cook our shallots. So we're going for 1/2 cup. The rest of this olive oil we got here should be the rest of this olive oil. You don't usually fry in olive oil, but in this case, we are going to eventually eat this with the sweet potatoes. This oil is going to stay in here and act as a flavorful sort of cooking agent for our sweet potatoes. And so in this case, we are going to use something that we actually like the flavor of, which is olive oil. You can use veggie oil if you don't have olive oil. You can use coconut oil if you want to. That would actually add a little bit of an interesting flavor dynamic to it, but definitely an option if you feel so inclined. You really can't mess this part up. So this is already pretty hot because my pan was already pretty hot, which is good. We are going to jack up that temperature though. Clean up a little bit. So much oil. Awesome. Oh, it smells good. That's good olive oil. No questions though. That's fine. All right, cool. Sweet. So let's fry these stinkers up. Get some stuff cleaned up over here. Awesome. Pan heat on. We want this to be just barely smoking. Okay. While those are going, we're just going to cut our sweet potatoes. You know, as while you're doing one thing, it's always helpful to just sort of start on the next thing. So it's why mise en place is so great. Just makes your life super easy. At least that's the hope, you know. So I wasn't able to find some nice sweet potatoes that I really like. I got some decent ones. You want something that doesn't have a curve like this one does, or this. Excuse me. Ooh, excuse me. This one, you want it to be about this length, but you want it to be like nice and sort of fat and chunky and uniform. But we're going to get a couple planks out of this, which is all that really matters. So you want to sort of look at it and just imagine. See, I'm looking at this right here, and I see plank. I see 2 planks, and so you just want to sort of imagine them, and then you want to bring them into existence using your knife. So about a 1/2 inch. Again, we want it to be almost the same thickness as our steak. Cool, something like that. All right, so we got some nice sweet potato steaks there to go with our beef steaks. That should be good. So we'll try and do that same thing on this one. Try and find the line that's going to get you some nice steaks, and then cut it. Cool. And then, you know, save the other pieces of sweet potato. You can always roast them or whatever. You know, if you're doing this at home and you're not like trying to like do anything or everything all at once, you can always have cut these up a little bit smaller, thrown them in with your radishes and roasted them. Absolutely fabulous for a salad topping. Nothing wrong with that. Beautiful. What I'll probably do is just cook them up. Ooh, we got smoking oil. All right, let's get that off. I think that was actually a little bit more smoky than I would have liked. So we're just gonna let that cool down a little bit. And it's going to cool down really fast once you put the shallots in there. So I might just actually toss the shallots in and call that a day. I personally like to use a fork here for stirring them, but you use whatever you like. All right, let's get them in there. Put that right back on the heat. I know that I just lowered that temperature pretty heavily. You just want to stir them. Make sure you give them a place for that moisture to escape from, because we are trying to just basically dry them out here. We're cooking them in oil. Oil hates water. So hot oil is going to expel that water as fast as possible. It's going to make it evaporate.
and then it's going to protect the remaining. So they're already nice and soft, which means they're cooked at this point. We don't want them cooked. We want them crispy. So we're going to keep going, keep cooking them. Make sure they don't burn. That's really the most important thing. Make sure they don't burn. And I may have just put too many in here. Whoops. Can't do anything about that except for just keep stirring them, get that moisture out of them. They should eventually crisp up. I did say to do them in batches if you had too many, which that's me. I don't know how to follow my own recipes. Just keep stirring them. Make sure you give them a place for that liquid to get out. My timer just went off on those radishes. Take a peek at those. One more stir. Oh, there we go. They're starting to get a little crispy. I just saw my first crispy one. Oh yeah. Radishes are looking fabulous. Let's give those one more stir. I think we're just gonna put them in for maybe 7 more minutes. They've got, one side is starting to get a little crispy. They're definitely getting nice and sort of wrinkly, which is what we want. I just want to try it. Oh, that's good. It's a little bit longer. Every 5 minutes. Oh, yeah, baby. There we go. Now we got some crisping happening. And you can see there's less moisture coming off. That's a big indicator that they're getting close to being done. They're also starting to get kind of blackish, not black, but like the color's really, really darkening, which is good. And they're gonna feel sort of soft still because they're still cooking. And when you take them off, they're gonna sort of finish up that process and they're gonna start to crisp up. So awesome. I'm gonna start taking these out of here because I don't want them to burn. We're just gonna take them out. We're gonna put them right on our sheet. Rather than a sheet, a paper towel lined plate. Oh yeah. Might have gone a little too long with these, but also, like I said, I think it's partially because I just put too many in there. If I had put less, they would have fried up a little bit faster. I would have had more control of their speed, and I think they would have turned out a little bit better. But I think they're going to be great just the way they are. So that's perfectly okay with me. Oh yeah. Okay, cool. So now this oil tastes absolutely delicious and super shalloty, which is great. We're going to use it to fry our sweet potatoes. I think I might have just a little bit too much, so let me take a little bit out of here before we go any further. I got some shallots in there. Ooh, that's hot. Don't do what I just did and splash oil on yourself. It does not feel good. I'm just gonna pour a little bit of that off. Perfect. There we go. All right, great. Let's get this temperature down a little bit. Let that kind of hang out a bit. I think it's still a little too hot. In the meantime, though, what we can do is we can get our glaze ready. So we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna melt that up. Oh yeah. Nice little crispy boys. I do think I burnt them a little bit. Oh, it tastes good though. Oh, it tastes so good. Oh my god. I let them go maybe, I don't know, 20 seconds too long. I think I was a little bit distracted, but so it goes. I'm gonna take a little more out of this. Come on. There we go. Now we're doing it. All right, so let's get our sweet potatoes in there. I'm gonna be very careful about the temperature on this. I want the temperature to be pretty hot when I glaze them, but they do need to cook, right? And they're sweet potatoes, so they cook a little bit faster than a normal potato, but I don't want to burn them so much. There's quite a lot of sugar in there, so there's definitely a risk of that. So I actually have my heat off right now. I'm just letting the residuals sort of start them, and then we're gonna work off of that. Butter's getting melted. And I did hear my timer on those radishes. Done. We're gonna bring it all together here pretty soon. So the one thing I did not have out on the counter was the arugula, and that's because I like my greens nice and cold in a salad. So I did get some arugula. Again, did not get a chance to go to the farm to pick some up, which was sad, but hopefully you guys did. It is definitely going to be a much better experience. We're successful in that. Let's check out our dressing just while we're over here. Give it a little mix. It's still nice and emulsified. That gorgonzola has had a chance to really blend in there. Let's give it a little flavor. Oh yeah. Oh, it's so tasty. I love gorgonzola so much. Ooh, oh, that's good. And let's actually chop some of our nuts. I like nice big nuts, but actually they're pretty well crumbled. But we'll give them a little chop. Turn it back on. Take these radishes out. Some radishes look fabulous. As you can see, they got a nice crispy edge. The skin is looking a little bit sort of wrinkly, and they're nice and soft. You know, you can just, and this is hot, obviously, but yeah, there's no crunch. It's pure delicious. Should be a little sweet. They don't taste like a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Part of that is because these are store-bought radishes. They didn't come from a farm. If I got farm radishes, they'd be way more intense, guaranteed. All right, so we got some brown sugar and some balsamic. We're gonna make our glaze real quick. Make sure I got the ratios right. Yeah, 2 tablespoons and a quarter cup. So it's a quarter cup of butter and sugar mixed together, and then a quarter cup of vinegar. Awesome. I knew I needed those tablespoons. Thought I put that. 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Oh yeah, nice. Those are getting sort of nice and crispy on that side. That's what we like to see. Just keep that oil moving around them. Obviously, my setup just smokes like crazy. Get that butter and sugar mixed together. We're gonna put in our balsamic vinegar. I just got a nice cheap balsamic vinegar. You can use anything you want. You can even just buy glaze like already made and water that down a little bit. You do want to have some water, so there's something to sort of cook in the pan with the potatoes when you're glazing it. Otherwise, I think it's just it gets kind of messy. You can also just drizzle it over the top if you don't want to deal with glazing them whole. These potatoes can be roasted too or grilled. They do not need to be cooked in the pan like we're doing right now. But I just think that's easiest for sort of our limitations on this program. But yeah, grilling them would be an awesome technique right now as well. So a quarter cup is also the same as 4 tablespoons. So we're going to go ahead and just do 4 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I hope you noticed we didn't have to emulsify this or anything like that because we're not dealing with oil in this case. We've got butter and sugar. They are still going to not want to be together super well, but butter has milk solids in it and stuff like that tend to be a really good way to for it to sort of attach to other things, especially when it's mixed with sugar. It tends to actually be fairly not water soluble, but it doesn't hate water like oil does. So it's actually pretty easy to make a nice sort of brown glaze here. Very tasty. Give it a little taste. Oh, it's so good. I'm just gonna get better as it cooks down too. Okay, so let's give these nuts just a quick little run over. Get them nice and crispy for on top of our salad. You can put as many as you want in here. Ooh, these guys are probably ready for a turn. Oh, classic. So this is the problem with my stove, as you guys have probably seen before. This is actually okay. Sweet potatoes are very sugary, like incredibly sugary. I got a little burn going on, but in all honesty, that's gonna be really good. When I grill, if you ever seen me grill, like I said, we're basically grilling these. If you ever see me grill, I always get lots of char, especially something like this with a sweet potato. That black char, carbon char on the outside is going to be very minimal as far as flavor is concerned, and it's actually going to be really tasty because it's charred sugar and it's going to taste almost like a caramel sort of. So while they look darker than I would have liked, I'm not very sad about it. That's 2 things today that my stove has burned, but also I think are super tasty. So these shallots turned out really good, but they are fairly dark. But again, the flavor is absolutely astounding. It's so good. Oh my god. Oh, tasty. All right, we got some nuts chopped, ready for our salad. Awesome. Going to be slicing our steak here soon too. All coming together, my friends. Radish is good. Let's do a little taste test. Make sure it all tastes good together, you know? That's doing it. Oh, that's gonna be tasty. Get this heat back up. I think these are almost done, which means we're gonna be able to glaze them soon, and then we're gonna just be ready to go. I'm gonna start cleaning up my workspace here, so we're ready to go. Get some nice plating going. Don't need you. Actually, I might. So you can just sort of take a fork and poke these, and they'll tell you if they're done or not, just like a normal potato. Nice, they're getting pretty tender. That's good. Just a little bit more time. Take a look at the other side. Nice. A lot less burnt. Again, though, I really like. I can even show you. Like it just comes right off. You see that? That one, it's got this like burnt mark, but underneath is just pure potato. Lots of smoke. Awesome. My butter got too cold. That's okay though. It'll heat right back up again once you hit it in the pan. So we're just trying to get this pan pretty much screaming hot, and then we're gonna hit it with that glaze. Potatoes are basically done. They really just need a little more time, but they are gonna cook in the glaze, so that's totally okay. You don't want them completely done right now. You want them al dente, so that as they sort of poach in the glaze, they will finish cooking. That's gonna be our sort of goal on that end. No questions tonight, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. I always like asking questions. It throws some fun wrenches into my plans, which always makes it kind of fun. But no problemos. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves, and I hope you're as excited as me for eating this. It's going to be absolutely delicious. Whew. All right, my steak has rested. Oh yeah. Okay, we're nice and hot here. Here we go. Things are going to get crazy real quick. Glaze is going in. Shaky, 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 shake. Oh yeah. Just keep shaking it as that liquid dissolves. Ooh, don't get it on yourself like I did. Give them a little flip here. Make sure they get glazed on both sides. You're kind of making like a caramel here almost with the balsamic vinegar and the butter and that sugar. Keep stirring them. Oh yeah, that's gonna be so good. I'm gonna just poke them a little bit, get some more glaze into the actual potato too. I really gotta stop splattering myself with hot things. It's just not. It's not good for my health. That smells really good though. Oh my god! Wow. Okay. Be careful. Maybe I should have put a big "be careful" sign on this step. It is. It's more splattery than I remember last time I did this. What is happening? Something's going on with my stove. Even more new stuff, fun stuff. We're gonna turn this off. Call it, I think. Get those out of the pan. So normally I would cook this completely until the glaze had sort of got itself on the outside of it. But I think my stove here has created a bit of a mess. Yeah. Yep. So I broke my sauce, unfortunately, which happens. You know, it was doing really good there for a second, but then I think that just really too intense heat. You'd normally like to sort of turn that down. I think that too intense heat sort of. Yeah, that's okay. We'll let that cool naturally, and then water's going to just dissolve that. The potatoes got a pretty decent glaze on them, though. I can actually see it on there. They're going to taste absolutely delicious. Everything's a little more cooked than I would suggest, but it certainly is going to be absolutely tasty regardless. Beautiful. Let's bring this together. So we're going to take one of our steak pieces here. Has been nice and fully rested. Tastes absolutely delicious. Get this off the heat here a little bit. Maybe I should just leave the fan on. That's still smoking. Hot sugar, hot oil. It's a dangerous thing. And hey, not everybody's perfect. It's okay. This is still going to taste really good. I got it out of the pan before anything got too crazy. But sometimes, you know, you make the best plans and you get kibosh. That's okay. We're all trying new things, and I'm very excited to still eat this. So our steak, like I said, we're going to cut it on a bias, which essentially normally you cut straight up and down like that. We're going to turn our knife like that and cut into it sort of at an angle, which is going to cut those fibers that run vertically right in half, right in parts. That's going to make it really nice. So we're going to start at the tip here. We're going to work our way back towards this back edge. So we're going to do pretty thin
slices as thin as we feel comfortable with. You want to come in at a pretty nice angle if you can. The cutting board is not staying put. A good trick for that, actually, let me show you guys real quick. You take a wet towel and you lay it down on your surface underneath your cutting board, and then your cutting board stops moving. So that's a nice little trick to use if your cutting board's super slippery like mine and you don't want to deal with that. Again, we're just cutting at a bias. What this is going to do is it's going to cut those fibers into smaller pieces, which is going to make it a lot more tender for us when we go to actually eat it. Get this little piece out right here. That's a very nice piece of meat. Again, it's a London broil, so don't expect it to be like the most tender piece of meat you ever had, but it's tasty, it's flavorful, it's really cheap, which is nice. And just by cutting it differently, we're ending up with an entirely different experience than we would have if we just ate it like a normal steak. Really good. So you got these nice pieces that we're going to lay on the top of our salad. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely tasty. Oh yeah, I'm looking for my towel to wipe my hands just underneath my board. Okay. This is my gross mess in my pan. But hey, you know, it's all gonna taste good in the end. All right, let's do some assembly, my friends. We'll push everything back here. I want to make this look really nice, pretty if we can. So pick your favorite plate. I have a favorite bowl, but I actually don't have a favorite plate. So we're just gonna pick whichever one is looking as most pretty. Let's do this one. All right, cool. So let's see. I don't want to lie to you all. So I'm going to see, we're going to read what I told you guys to do, and then I'm going to show you what I meant. Because sometimes plating especially can be kind of difficult to get across. And so we're going to do this word by word. So on one side of the plate, you want to place one of the sweet potato planks. So what I mean by that is generally plates are divided into, you think of like a quarter or thirds. That's generally how we like to think about plating. So we're going to pick this third here, and that's where we're going to put our nice glazed sweet potato. Again, this is nice and brown. Well, actually, I like that side better. That's really nice. This is kind of black, but I guarantee you this is really, really freaking tasty. That sugar, it's all sugar. It's not, it's like normally when you have char like that, it tastes bad. It's something from like a toast or something like that. And that's mostly carbon. This is sugar carbon, which is some of the best carbon you can get your hands on. Awesome. So that's what I mean by one portion of the plate. It's usually a third or a quarter or a half. You want to sort of divide your plate. What we're going to do is we're going to build our salad on this half. We're going to leave about a quarter untouched. And that's going to be our white space. We really like white space. It gives you something to look at that's not the food. And that contrast can really bring the food and make it pop. All right, so we've got the sweet potato plank. Now we're going to mound a healthy portion of arugula on top of the plank, leaving about a half of it exposed, leaving about a quarter of the plate exposed. So what that means here is we're going to take a nice amount of, and again, this is your whole salad. This is dinner. So like go crazy. Eat as much arugula as you first really want. What we're going to do is remember, we're doing half a plate. So we're going to mound this up. Maybe that's a little too much. That's fine. I like it. Onto this half of the plate. So see, so the sweet potato is there. We can see that the sweet potato exists. But the salad is sort of our main focus here. And we still got that white space that we're looking for. So that's what I'm talking about there. Now we just start to build everything on top of that, right? So we already sliced our steak. And so now we're going to take our steak and we're going to make sort of a fan. So I'm going to take half of the steak here. And it's already sort of in a fan. And then I think, yeah, cool. So we want this to sort of be up against the side of the salad and sort of come to rest on our sweet potato. That way our eye is like, ooh, steak. I like steak. Steak is delicious. And it follows that steak to the sweet potato and it goes, what's that hiding beneath my mound of salad, you know? And it gives you some incentive to get down in there and sort of figure out what's going on. And now we're just gonna hit it with sort of the rest of our accoutrements, a little bit of radishes. over the top, just to add, you know, that nice flavor and color. Some of our candied nuts, again, just sort of spread them out. You want to put them on the salad itself because we do want that negative space of the empty part of the plate. Nuts on top as well. And this is probably a little bit too busy. If I was doing this in a restaurant, I'd probably mix the radishes and the nuts in with the salad and then mound it. But I personally like it on top. So that's what I'm doing. But you know, as far as like preparation and presentation, mixing it in is probably more appropriate. Awesome. So we got the fan shape. And then, like I said, we want the base of the wheel pointing away from the potato. That leads our eye towards the potato. And then radishes, we got that. Nooks and crannies, delicious. Oh, Chris, how did I forget the crispy shallots? And then the dressing, which is gonna be great. So we got some crispy shallots here. Just gonna, again, just sort of sprinkle those all over the top, all over the place. Absolutely delicious. They're so good. And then we're just gonna hit it with our dressing. And again, like I said, we are gonna spoon this over the top. We want it to be nice and sort of chunky, and the liquid to just sort of fall into the salad as we go. So some nice sort of spoons of dressing right onto the top here. And go pretty crazy. Arugula is really flavorful, but this dressing isn't just for the arugula, it's also for the steak and for your salad. So you know, put a decent amount on there. Really go to town. Turn this pan off. And we're done, my friends. There's our salad, nice and tasty, nice and plated. You know, a couple blunders here and there, but what's cooking without, you know, a couple of mistakes?
Wow, that looks amazing, Chris.
I can't see you guys. Technology. Yeah, let's get a nice little peek of that again. Get a nice little close up. That's a huge salad too. But that's okay. I'm gonna eat the whole thing.
I think that was so interesting too about the plating. We could have like a whole series, I think, just on plating.
Oh my God.
Like that's something that's just never really talked about in most recipes or, you know, things that you follow.
Exactly.
The presentation.
Friends, what I told you though, because I'm sure I said something that was not correct, but that's my personal philosophy. And honestly, you know, I think it looks pretty good.
It looks excellent.
And all this individually tastes really good, but the beautiful thing about this dish is when you put it all together, you're going to get something entirely different. And that's literally what cooking is. But it's just such a fabulous experience. It's one of the reasons why I love cooking so much, is that you can take things that individually are delicious, mix them in some specific way, and you get something else that is just above and beyond better than what you started with. And so this is maybe the most excited I've been for a salad in quite a long time. But we probably won't see a salad again until next year. So
Well, thank you so much. It was great.
Yeah, and thank everybody else for coming. And next month's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna hit up we're going to have some fun with something that you probably will be seeing on your fancy restaurant menus as spring comes into full sort of fling, and we're really getting into summer at this point. It's gonna be good. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. It is delicious, and I'm definitely getting to the farm this time because, good Lord, it's not gonna be the same with frozen stuff. So sweet. Thanks for coming, guys. This will be up on YouTube soon. I did put the old one up. Finally, so if you missed it, do go check that out, Agritown Library YouTube. And if you're interested in some of the stuff I've done in the past, Trash Panda EPL, it's Trash Panda EPL, like Agritown Public Library, .wordpress.com is still up. A lot of great recipes that I cooked during the pandemic. It's a fabulous website to go check out if you need a nice cocktail or just something to do. There's tons of recipes there, so check it out. And thanks for coming, guys. I really appreciate you all being here and watching me just sort of hang out in my house. Although my cat didn't come, she was here, I guarantee it. She is going to want some steak later, 100%. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.